Okay, call to order the December 9th, 2024 meeting of the Merrimack Conservation Commission. It is 6:30 p.m. All full-time members are here. So, no public hearing scheduled. So we'll get right into new business, which is a discussion with the Litchfield Conservation Commission. Jason Brennan here. He is the vice chairman of the Litchfield Conservation Commission.
Got a little AV action going on there. These are conversation starters. So, good evening, everybody. My name is Jason Brennan. I'm the vice chair of the Litchfield Conservation Commission.
Jason, yeah, just press the push
We
button.
don't have to hit the
light.
button in Litchfield. Restate that. Thank you, everybody. My name is Jason Brennan. I'm the vice chair of the Litchfield Conservation Commission. And every year we put together a goals list. And it's usually got about 20 things on it that are goals that we like to achieve by the end of the year. And one of them that we always put on there is visit a neighboring community's conservation commission meeting. Last year I did Londonderry. This year I came over here. Our goals list also has a bunch of other interesting stuff on it, and it's usually there's some pretty challenging things on there. Like this year, we had a couple of bridges that we wanted to build that were pretty significant, 30-foot bridges with big gigantic telephone poles, the whole 9 yards. You know, that was one of the things that we put on there, and we were able to get that done. Other things that we put on there is we try to hold 2 or 3 community events. We have a fishing derby, we have UNH in to do talks and stuff like that. And then this is one of the other things that's on our list of goals. So what I have a couple questions to ask you guys. There's no like real agenda here, but just for the fun of it, I put together this quick hitting map just to give you like a little tour of some of our properties, specifically the ones that are on the Merrimack River that kind of align with we're right across the river from Merrimack. So if you kind of start at the top there, number 1 is Moores Falls. That's like one of our, back up a second in Litchfield. Litchfield's only 13 square miles. It's 2 miles wide and about 7 miles long. And if you look at it, it's pretty much built out. There's 1 acre zoning in Litchfield. Everybody's got an acre lot, and a lot of our property is pretty much built out on. So we don't have a lot of open space with the exception of like farmlands. We still got Wilson Farm and McQuestion Farm there. So our properties aren't huge by any stretch of the imagination. Like you guys have properties that are much, much bigger than our properties. But kind of like going from the top to the bottom, Moores Falls is probably our most popular property. It's got about a mile-long walking trail in there right along the Merrimack River. It was the site of old lock system, and you can still see remnants of it today from the 1700s. There's an old gatehouse there, foundations and stuff. It's pretty cool. Got some historic character to it. Going down to number 2, coming down 3A past McQuestion Farm is our river access property. In front of part of that is actually a farm field that McQuestion leases from us on a yearly basis, and they farm corn there. And then we also have a river access there that a local contractor helped us build a road that's about a quarter-mile long and a parking lot and stuff like that. And that's our canoe and kayak launch. Prior to that, interesting fact is Litchfield did not have public river access. I think it opened in 2017. The previous time we had public river access was 1899. They had no means to really get a canoe into the river since the ferry closed in 1899. Property number 3, the muster field, is in the old center of town with the the white church, and I don't know if you've been down to Sklar Park and you look across the river. That's the muster field. That site right there, according to our local historians, is one of the only remaining quote-unquote colonial muster fields that is untouched in New Hampshire. I can't verify that, but that's what I'm told. Like one of the only ones remaining there. we had a huge bittersweet problem, and that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about, how you guys are handling that. And it took us 2 years to clean that out. That was completely inundated. You couldn't even see the river. Now you can see the river, everything is opened up.
Is that Musterfield, isn't it also supposedly one of the locations for the other side of the Reed's Ferry?
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
That's something I want to talk to you guys about real quick, too. So our side, the Musterfield is our side of Thornton's Ferry.
Thornton's Ferry, sorry,
Thornton's
yep.
Ferry.
Yeah, so because when we purchased Scalar, that was always the big question. No one really knew where was the ferry landing. So we think we own it now. So that's good to know.
We have, our historic commission has historic maps.
Yep.
Property maps dating back, God, it's gotta be mid-1800s, and you can see the actual, where it actually is. We have a 50-foot
Perfect.
right-of-way there, and it pretty much lines up where Scalar
Yep.
Park's road comes down there. It's
Yep.
pretty cool. Number 4 is, I don't know if you folks know Normanton Farm. It's the grass-fed beef guy. We have a guy in town, Normanton Farm. He sells grass-fed beef. He's got cows roaming along basically our side of the Merrimack River. That whole green piece of property, number 4, is owned by the New Hampshire Agrarian Trust, and we have a conservation easement on top of that. And then right next to that is a piece of property called Parker Park, which is a town piece. And we have a bunch of trail systems that go down to the river there. Not significant, maybe you're lucky if you'll get like a mile out of it. That's where we built the two bridges. Because we have our community garden there as well. We have an old farm field that we use as the community garden. And then the last one going down there is number 5. We received an LCHIP grant this year, in 2024. We received an LCHIP grant and a New Hampshire Source Water Protection Grant for $585,000, and we're in the process of purchasing what was known as the DeRocher Blueberry Farm property. It used to be pick your own blueberries over there. I don't know if anybody's been there, but it was really cool. And then that's on the river as well. And that's probably, we're hoping to close on that within about the next 6 months. We're figuring out subdivisions and all that stuff. And then number 6 is like our big property where people like mountain bike and hike and stuff like that. And that's the Litchfield State Forest. Part of that is owned by the state. And then part of that is owned by the town. And then it abuts the Londonderry Musquash area. And it's pretty big. I live on the back of that property, and I've done 8 miles without crossing my path, so that's like our significant property. So that's, any questions on that at all?
I discovered the state forest last year and enjoyed walking through it. There is a big path through town, like a bike path, pedestrian path. Does the Conservation Commission have anything to do with that, or is that on the Parks and Rec side?
Yeah, if so Litchfield has 2 roads going
Yes.
north and south, basically. 3A, and then Albuquerque Avenue. Albuquerque Avenue there's no stoplights on it or anything like that. It's just a 30-mile-an-hour road. There's no houses on it either. And it's got a bike path the entire length. So that's actually maintained by the Highway Department.
Oh, okay.
It's 5.6 miles long.
Because that's got to give access to some of these. I
Yep.
know it goes right by the forest.
The problem we have in Litchfield is that Route 3A and Albuquerque Avenue, which kind of parallel each other, all the houses are off Albuquerque Avenue. It's almost like here as well. All the houses are off Albuquerque Avenue, but a lot of our conservation land is along 3A, so we're trying to connect properties together to allow people to get from the bike path, to the river, for example. So that's one of the things that we've been working on over the past few years to try to patch together properties so that we can get flow down to the river. And the DeRocher Blueberry Farm will get us really close to that. But then we have wetlands and stuff that we have to cross, so we gotta build more bridges.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Did you, getting rid of eradicating the burning, not the burning, what'd you say, not? Bittersweet, yeah. Did you do that on your own? Did you have somebody, somebody that you hired to help you do
The
it?
bridges, or,
No, the bittersweet.
oh, no, we did it on our own.
Wow. Because we have a lot of it in Sklar, and we've kind of waved the white flag at it.
How are you handling that?
Yeah, we were advised by a forestry guy from UNH Extension to, don't bother. He said we'll never be able to eradicate it completely. We also have a lot of other stuff. We've got bittersweet, we've got,
Burning bush?
Burning bush, we've got knotweed.
I think it comes from you guys over to us due to
Yeah,
the
yeah.
prevailing winds.
So I was just curious about, like, if you have anything, I mean, we can't do it tonight, but something that would, like, what did you do to make it successful?
We had, so across from the Musterfield property, right in the middle, is like a historic part of town. And if you look like on Google Maps 5 years ago, it looked like the Amazon back there, terrible. And people on the Conservation Commission, we got volunteers from town many times. We've had 20 people show up each, and we just start hacking away at it. And every year, we're either maintaining it or we're, taking more out as much as we can. It's an endless battle.
Yeah,
We had
Yeah.
UNH in, so UNH Cooperative Extension will come in and give talks, and they charge $100, and they have folks that come in, and they did a big talk on bittersweet and how to eradicate bittersweet, and so we took some of those tips that they gave us.
I'm curious, do you have any kudzu in any of your parks?
Excuse me?
Kudzu? Do you have any of that in your parks?
No.
It's it's a relative newcomer to this area. It's been a huge problem down south for decades. But my neighborhood has got a fair amount of it, and
What's
there's a
it
couple
look
of
like?
patches in Wildcat. It's a climbing vine that grows up other plants and trees and eventually chokes them out. And you can recognize it by the end of the vine has a very fine little curly Q, about an inch or two long on it. And it
I'm
just
sure we
keeps
do.
going.
But I haven't seen it. The bittersweet gets us, Virginia creeper, poison ivy, all over the place. And then the burning bush are probably the big four.
Two of the ones you just mentioned are native, though.
Excuse me?
Two of the ones you mentioned are native.
Yeah.
Are you trying to get rid of
Nope.
them, or just,
The,
you're just saying?
the ones that we're just trying to get rid of are burning bush and bittersweet. Those are the only two. Some of it's like that.
Sorry,
Good
Justin.
question. We chop it up and we bring it to the dump. And then they have people at our landfill site. It's called the transfer station.
Yeah.
They have someone come in on a monthly basis and they chip everything. I mean,
So are
I
they,
don't know what else
are
we
they
can do.
composting it?
excuse me?
Is it composting?
Nope, no, they chip it and I think it gets hauled away.
I've looked into what we're allowed to do with it. I mean, there are a few options. One of which is to bag it and bring it to the trash. Another is you can put it on just an impermeable surface, a non-soil surface, and let it dry.
Right, which means like a, 50 by 50 tarp
Yes.
that we can't get rained on, it's like, and whose yard's that gonna be in?
I gotta say, it's encouraging to hear that somebody's
Yeah.
on top of bittersweet
I don't know,
somewhere.
personally, I hang it in trees. No, wait, yes, I hang the roots in trees and let it dry out. But I mean, right, you can't do that when you have like a billion
To
pounds
show
of
the other
it.
plants what's gonna happen if they root in your yard?
Now, this grant you got, was that to the Conservation Commission or was that to the town, the grant involving the blueberry farm?
Conservation Commission got it, yeah. I mean, we have to go through our Board of Selectmen, and they approve everything, but we wrote the grant. We went through the whole process. We also recently got a grant last month for an intern. So we're having a summer intern, 15 hours paid a week through the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. And so what we're gonna, the goal with the intern is like at some of our properties that we've got a lot of historic sites, is to like, set up QR codes, mapping so that people can walk the trail, QR code, pull up information. Yeah, so we go after, those types of things if we can get to it. We're limited, like, we do a lot, we have a very active commission right now, how things can turn over. And we have 4 or 5 people on our commission that are out there every single week. We have a tractor, we mow our own fields, we do our own work. I remember, I think you guys set it up where you have committees. That's what I'd like to know about committees for each. Does that work well for you guys?
That's the property that I'm most involved with, Horse Hill. We've, like the other properties here, we got a subcommittee of about 7 people. If there's a problem with a boardwalk, if there's a problem with a bridge that can be fixed with 2 hours' time and a small
Yeah.
team, just do it. I mean, if materials have to be purchased, it goes through this, but if there's materials left from a previous project, for instance, it'll get done at the subcommittee level.
That's interesting. So we don't have that. We're maintaining all of our own properties, and we don't get much help.
Yeah, our subcommittees are sort of a mixed bag. Some of them, the one I'm involved in, which I actually came from, is currently at 2 members plus me. But it's a smaller area, doesn't really require a lot of maintenance. And we have, luckily, a dedicated crew of volunteers that will always have half a dozen people come out to help us on trail days.
Yep. How do you set that up? Do you have an on-call list or something like that, or
Well,
social media group?
No,
or-
so there's a particular foundation in town in honor of one of our high school students who passed a while ago, but who really loved that area. They help us maintain that area. They've put benches in. Whenever we have a project like building a bridge or doing trail cleanup or maintenance, they will always send several of their members out.
Obviously, we're live, right?
Yep.
And so I'm always amazed at the amount of people that stop me in the store. If we have something that's controversial or something like that, people you don't know stop us in the store. So people actually watch this, which
Yep.
is great, good. But, we'll advertise, like if we have trail days, either for, at this level or for one of the subcommittees, we'll advertise it on the town, on our website, which is the town website, and we also have some social media platforms that we use that are, run by the town, that we just put them out, and then we put it out to with our subgroups. We keep a mail list for each one, or some of them keep a mail list, and we'll just put it out to the people that have volunteered in the past. And you end up getting, sometimes you get people, sometimes not, but.
Can only do what you can
Yep.
do. Yeah.
How do you guys, you said you have your own machines?
Yes. We've got quite a bit of
How'd
equipment.
that work?
So in Litchfield, we don't have a large highway department. They have 3 people in it. On our rec commission, we don't have a recreation department in Litchfield, but any town employees, we have a rec commission. That's all volunteer. Conservation Commission's all volunteer. A few years ago, we got together with the Recreation Commission and we split a Kubota tractor. We have a B2601 Kubota tractor with a bunch of implements on it. We got a bucket, we got a brush hog, we got a York rake, we've got a bunch of other stuff. And then both commissions use that to help maintain our properties. We're not cutting sports fields with the Kubota tractor. We are doing things like, raking out the parking lots and things like that. And the folks that are on the commissions are able to use it, regular volunteers.
So this is not a device that requires a special license?
Nope. It's a big size,
Training
Lawnmower.
is License, no.
no. You can drive it on the road too, up to 35 miles an hour.
Where do
It's
you
not a
store-
huge tractor. It's called a compact tractor, which is probably just a much bigger lawnmower essentially, about the size of a lawnmower, but
Where do you store it? Do you store it in the town, the DPW?
where do I store it?
Yeah,
Yeah, in Litchfield, right across from Sklar Park, there's the old fire station that was there. And so that is basically, I'm not gonna call it an empty building, but once the fire department moved to their new building, we have a building there with
Good.
garage doors. And the boat is stored in there, the fire department's boat, you know, some other equipment, and then we have a little corner of it where we've got our own equipment. Nothing spectacular, but it gets the job done. Otherwise, a lot of our properties are, Litchfield's got a lot of fields, a lot of our properties are fields. So we've got to kind of keep those under control, or they'll be out of control. Within a year, everything will be overgrown.
How large is your commission?
We have 7 members. We have, including a Board of Selectmen rep, and then we have 2 or 3 alternates. Let's see what else I had here. Property maintenance. I had a couple of questions I just want to go over. How you handle property management, we talked about that. What do you guys do with your conservation fund? How does that work with the land use change tax? Kind of curious on what you're getting for percentage and.
We're running out of properties to get land use change tax from.
It's capped. I think it's at.
Yeah, it's
$1 million?
It's capped at $1 million plus there's an extra like 100,000 or so. And basically it refills slowly. I don't know at the rate it refills at
Yeah,
which, but it eventually reaches like a certain point where it no longer refills.
Right, I think that's the $1 million cap, and it fills, when we're under that, when we've spent on whatever money and we are under that $1 million cap, we get 50% of the land use change tax for the next
Okay.
time that property sells. Up to when, and once it hits $1 million, that all goes back into the town general fund.
And what are you using those funds for? What's your budget look like? Do you have a budget appropriation for land management at all through the town? Or are you using your land use change tax
So we have about
conservation?
$5,000 of of community developments fund that comes to us, but it's mostly,
That's for training and subscriptions.
yeah,
Dues.
it's,
Yeah,
and
training,
printing occasionally.
but the management of the parcels is done by our fund.
Gotcha. We are, we had a cap of $1 million. We bumped the cap to 2.5 million. And then we get, it's like you, but we get 80%, it's 80-20. We don't have many properties left that we're gonna be seeing land use change tax funds on, but, and then we, like you said, we do have a small budget as well. It's only, I think it's $3,600 is our budget, and a lot of that goes to the dues and things like that.
And how much of that $1 million or now 2.5, I mean, how much do you spend on a yearly basis?
Good question. We have I guess there's been a long-standing philosophy at the Conservation Commission in Litchfield to try to use that money for property purchase. So we try to use it for property purchase, but if we have to dip into it, the tractor, we got, the tractor was like 25 grand all in, so we put $12,000 into, took that from the fund.
I feel like we're I feel like I've heard a similar message since joining, that we're also kind of hope to use the money for land purchase.
Yeah, I feel like we're in like an in-between space where like the larger properties, the most ecologically important properties that we might want to purchase are kind of so valuable that, even the $1 million wouldn't buy it.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Is
And
that
then-
why you upped your cap?
Yeah, well, we upped the cap, at the time, the cap was upped because we hit the limit. And then once we hit the limit, all of the we get none of the funds. So, Conservation's a pretty big thing in Litchfield, just due to the fact that we've had multiple community surveys. Some of them have been significant, like, I don't want to say 1,000 people, but over 500 people put in on the survey. And like, the top three things are to retain, the character of the community, the farmland, that type of stuff. And as part of that process, we ended up getting it up to 2.5 million. We're not even close to hitting it, but we hit the roof at one point in time, and once you hit the limit, nothing's coming in. And so, and property is not cheap anymore. So it's not like you can get any property for under $1 million. That's why we had to hit the grant. We didn't have enough money for the DeRocher Blueberry Farm property. We went 50-50 with the state on that.
What was the approximate time, because the grants don't come immediately, from the time you started applying to the time it was awarded?
Yeah, so in the springtime, so this might be interesting to you folks. There's two grants that we went after, the LCHIP and the Source Water Protection Grant. The LCHIP grant comes out in the springtime. A lot of times, land trusts have staff that can actually put together these grants. They're not insignificant to put together. The LCHIP was like over 150 pages. Online though, so a little bit easier. But to get to your question, the springtime is the time you put in a letter of interest. And then once you pass that first hurdle, you put in the full application, and that comes around September. I think it opens up in like June, and then it's due in September. And you gotta have your game plan together. You have property identified, everybody's gotta be on board. The Source Water Protection Grant, we kind of got lucky, and I think you're in the same boat, because of the Pennachuck water intake in South Merrimack, kind of goes across to Litchfield as well. There's a big influence zone there, and that influence zone sets you up for Source Water Protection Grant funding, which is easier to get than the LCHIP funding. And so if you look at the maps, and we studied the map, actually it was the LCHIP folks that tipped us off on that, and they said, hey, there's another bucket of money, and that's where we ended up getting both grants.
Probably less competitive.
Less competitive, yeah. Of course, the year we put in, they're always a banner year, record number of applicants, but for the most part, the Source Water Protection Grant I know that there were years where they were actually looking for projects. So look at that map. If you actually go onto New Hampshire DES, there's different zones, and you'll see, if you go down by the bud plant, you're gonna see this big zone of, 3 miles, around, where you're able to use those grant funds. We stumbled up. It's not like that we're all knowing or anything like that. We stumbled backwards into that one.
Yeah. I think I remember the NRPC talking about that at their last forum that was this past summer, that they're trying to get a lot more interest in water conservation, water protection, water preservation projects.
Agree. Especially in our area with the whole situation that's going on, all the PFAS and stuff. And so we kind of got lucky. Now, DeRocher Blueberry Farm, I don't know if folks that have been there, we're excited about this. It's not signed, sealed, and delivered yet, but it's a beautiful piece of farmland just rolling right down to the Merrimack. And when you get to the Merrimack, you get to see the back of the bud plant.
I just saw Moores Falls for the first time last year and thought that was a beautiful piece to have preserved, because it's good on both sides of the
Yeah,
river there.
yeah.
And the canal history was totally new to me. The signage there was great.
We used to have little kiosks set up, but they got ripped off or vandalized at some point in time, and we're gonna try to redo those.
Is vandalism an issue?
Excuse me?
Is vandalism an issue in very many places?
Not really. We don't, with the exception of what I just talked about, not really. It's dogs and, cleaning up the poop and stuff. That's really the main thing we come across. We don't have too much trash. We do property checks every week. We actually have, we set up Google Forms, and we have QR codes on every single piece of property. So if somebody sees an issue, we have a little sign that says report a problem, and it's got a QR code on it. And we have a very simple Google form that's set up that you just type in your name and, pull from a pull-down list. We not only use that for people to report issues, but we use it for ourselves to track our maintenance and what we're doing. The cool thing about it is that when you scan the QR code and you fill out, I was here today and I did a property check, it automatically gets emailed out to everybody in the group, and you can add a photo to it, so everybody kind of knows, hey, I went to this property today, and it kind of gets registered into a database as well. And it's just a simple, we use Google in town, I don't know what you folks use, but it's just a simple Google form. It worked out pretty well for us. I would say 90% of the time, it's us keeping track of what we do, and 10% of the time, it's somebody
Yeah, I have
That's,
a question
got a problem.
about that, because I've used Google Forms, but I have to use my personal email to do it. Is there an issue with that? Because we can't use our town emails because it's not a Google email. Like, you can't use it to create Google Forms and stuff, right?
We had our IT guy, I drew out the form on a piece of paper and I handed it over to him, and he created the Google form, and it's like, probably took him a half hour. There's only 4 fields in there.
Probably took them 5 minutes.
It,
Yeah.
Yes.
the good thing about the Google form is that when we go to the budget committee or we're talking to the Board of Selectmen, we have a list of everything that we've done. And I think it carries a little bit of weight. We're up into 300, we've been doing it for about 2.5 years, and we're up to 300, I'll call them work orders that we've completed. And so it's nice when you're walking in the budget committee and they want to shave our $3,500 down to $3,200. I go, look at all these things we're doing. That works out okay.
Do you have any problems with overcrowding at any of your parks?
Not like you guys do. I remember with COVID, people would be lined up and down the street, but not really. The 2 major properties are Moores Falls and then the Litchfield State Forest. But occasionally they'll be parked out on the road. During COVID, they would be. Litchfield State Forest had a line of cars going down the road, but now it's pretty reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we have overcrowding. I wouldn't say we have, a lot of our properties, even though they're there, like the river access, there's not a lot of people go and put their kayak in, and that's really, really about it.
Can you estimate what the parking lot capacity is for those 2 properties?
Yeah, good question. Moores Falls parking lot capacity is not, I would probably say 12 cars or so. And then people will park, if you went down there, people will park along 3A there as well. The Litchfield State Forest, the state came in and did some clear cutting, and then they expanded the parking lot. Maybe a dozen cars there as well. Parker Park, which is another one of our properties on 3A, probably has 5 or 6. People walk to them though. We have a bike path, and people will ride their bike to the state forest, and that helps out a bit.
Our one problematic property, Wildcat, has a parking lot capacity of about 16 plus or minus 1, but it's in a heavily residential neighborhood, and the residents are very unhappy with that.
Yep.
And we spar with them occasionally, and we actually had to close the park down for a year because of that.
I remember I've been there a couple of times. That's a beautiful property. It's really unique. It's kind of like a property you would see up north, but it's down here in the southern part of the state. And yeah, I noticed that there was very little parking. And then I remember when COVID hit, people were putting their signs up in their yards, and yeah.
And we've instituted a few measures, but given town bylaws, there's really not much we can do about it. And attempts to improve or increase the parking capacity are pretty much non-starters with the neighborhood.
Is it still a problem today?
On nice weekends, yes.
There were a couple of bad weekends this year.
That's a nice property, yeah. The only other thing that I had, so we talked about the conservation fund. Is there anything unique that you folks are doing? Different, I don't know. We're looking for ideas.
We're about to start working, well, I haven't even talked to them about this, we're about to start working with the local schools and get involved with that.
Yep.
I'll update you.
Which actually, we do have a student, I guess they're considered an alternate member, through the local high school.
And this is brand new, that's the first year we've done this.
Okay.
And I think she attended her first meeting last month and
Yeah.
is not here tonight.
And that had to go before, that had to go on the ballot in the spring.
Oh,
To
really?
change
Okay.
our, to change the membership of the commission to
We're an
provide for that.
elected, we're an appointed body by the town council. So if they change our charter, that has to go up on the vote.
Couldn't a student rep always just come in as an alternate, or is it an additional?
That's our board, our board is set on our charter, and that, they wanted to change the charter, so they
Okay.
did.
Yes.
Well, and I think she can't be a voting member, so she
Right.
isn't
Yeah.
even an alternate. Yeah.
Yes.
What happens if,
And there was an
Full-time
age
members aren't
restriction
here.
about 18, so.
sorry?
There was an age restriction about 18, so we had to get a specific exemption from that.
That's cool.
So do you do other community outreach programs? We're, thanks to Karis, starting up a couple in the next few months. We're looking at doing a rain barrel build and buy. There's some people coming in to talk about various subjects and.
Yep. That's one of our goals. We try to do 2 or 3 of those a year. Every year we have a fishing derby, and that's at Parker Park, and that's sponsored with the Recreation Commission. That costs us maybe about $700 or so. And, the state comes in, they stock our area, and all the kids come down, and that's pretty fun. And then we do we've done a bird watching. We have folks in town that are experts at, birds, and we've had bird watching seminars. But the things that draw in people for us are the UNH cooperative extension programs. That have been pretty good. We did a butterfly garden one, we did a bittersweet one, we had fish and game. You guys have this issue too. We had bears like roaming around town for a period of years. We had Fish and Game came down and did a whole bear thing. It was really, really good. And we reached out, if you check with the UNH Cooperative Extension, they have a list of I'm gonna say 15 topics of things that they'll bring people in to talk on.
We actually have a few scheduled for this year.
Yeah. Those have been popular for us. I mean, we get 15 people in the room. The other thing that I forgot to mention, was that at our Musterfield property, right across from Sklar Park, we had a archaeological dig there this spring. And we have a whole report, it's on our website, of everything that they found. And they found stuff going way back into the 1700s, if not the 1600s. Indian artifacts, things like that were found. We had a couple old coins from the 1700s that were found, and that's just directly across from Sklar Park. Once you're looking at that, look across the river, and that's where the archaeological.
That's pretty high, though. Muster Field goes up pretty high from the.
Very high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Scalar is pretty much all floodplain.
Yep.
So it's, I'm not sure how much is gonna be left down.
So it's easy digging.
Yeah,
So
the river does it every year.
interesting was when they dug the holes. They're digging holes about this big, but they had to be, I don't know, 5 or 6 feet deep, and the artwork of just digging the hole perfectly square, sides, and you could see the different strata down in the hole, and he was like, this is the 1936 flood, this is the 1856 flood. It was like they had to get below these levels just to start finding like the good stuff. You know, if you're interested, I'll send a copy of the report, but there's some, I don't know, it was pretty good. There's some pretty interesting finds, and they came in and did a public presentation of it. And the room was packed. It was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool.
You know, it's something we've never done is, you know, not that we advertise, but there's no reason we can't have the links for other Concom, our neighboring Concom on our site. It would be, you know, think how much property we share with Amherst,
Yeah.
you know?
When we're mowing up at our property on the muster field, we can see all you guys, there's like the same people like fish down there all the time, and we see it, and it's like, hey, what's going on over there?
If you see the guys down there in four-wheelers, let us know, would you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can do that. We did see the guy in the
burning
river a couple of years ago, and a car went right into the river, and then someone's like on the town Facebook page, like, I just saw this car go into the river. I think the last thing is, in 2026, it's gonna be the, what is it, 250th birthday of the United States, and there's like I guess there's a big push to have communities kind of celebrate the 250th birthday of the country. We have a group of people in town, the Historic Society, that's starting to put this together. And one of the ideas from them was to, for one day, to get the ferry going again. So we might be coming in at some point in time to talk about that.
That would be
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah,
That would be so much
You mean
fun.
between Musterfield and Sklar?
yes, yeah,
Well, we have to finish the road before then for anyone to get to the ferry.
yeah. Well,
That would be cool.
I think it's more a symbolic thing. I'm not sure we're gonna be carting people back and
Oh,
forth.
yeah.
But-
People to watch though.
Yeah.
That would be very cool.
That would be awesome.
We did try, for the heck of it, we did try to take a potato from McQuestion Farm, and we used one of those
Potato guns?
balloon launchers
Yeah.
and tried to launch it across and see if we could hit Sklar. Couldn't do it. So only got about halfway. River's like 500 feet wide.
That's okay, then we'd have an invasive population of potatoes.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you for preparing this map.
Yes.
Yeah, this is
I
great.
think you've inspired us with a few things. But
Do you have any of your goals that you haven't shared with us?
Excuse me?
Do you have any of your goals that you set that you haven't shared with us?
We have a lot of,
Can you-
there's like 20 on there. I'm trying to, let me think
can
if
you
there's
send us
anything
the list?
major. This year,
Yes.
we're trying to be
great
better at water quality sampling. Both in the river, and we have a couple of ponds in town. That's one thing that we're going after this year. We're trying to put in a dock on our one major pond that we have in town. And a lot of the other goals are just really related to maintenance. And, you know, one thing I'm gonna bring is the student member, I think, is really cool. And, I like how you guys have different subgroups, subcommittees for the different parks. I mean, we've got 4 people that are pretty much doing all the maintenance, and, we're gonna start slowing down at some point in time.
So speaking of water quality, a while ago I think it was from the New Hampshire DES. It's a very informative and fairly lengthy brochure on homeowner property, stormwater management, drainage, fertilizer runoff, things like that. And I've been trying to figure out if we could do something with it. And it sounds like if you're already working on something like that,
We just had our meetings are on YouTube, and we just had our meeting a couple of weeks ago, and that's the exact topic we were talking about.
okay.
We have one pond in town that's called Dara Pond. Well, there are more than one pond in town, but like publicly accessible pond in town called Dara Pond, and that's where our baseball fields are and stuff like that. There's a water quality and a milfoil issue there. We actually are most likely gonna be using some funding for milfoil treatment. And as
I think
part
our
of,
Parks and Rec does that in one of our ponds in town. Maybe at Wasserman?
for,
I think I think that one of our town departments, our Parks and Rec maybe has someone come down to one of their ponds and deal with the milfoil.
yep, there's a couple of companies that take care of that type of stuff, and, because we don't have really much staff in Litchfield, we kind of take it on by ourselves, but as part of that, that pond has, the state came and did a study, and the water quality level is going down on that, and so we're gonna be looking at, trying to figure out where that's coming from. And part of that relates to MS4, stormwater management. Could be playing a factor into it. Fertilizers could be playing a factor into it. There's a horse farm right next door that could be playing a factor into it. Well, appreciate the time.
No, thank you.
Sorry to
That's
take
great.
so much time. I was anticipating this was gonna be like 5 minutes or so, but
Yeah.
we checked that goal off for this year. Yeah. Any of you folks ever wanna come over to one of ours? I will say our meetings are, focused heavily on maintenance and projects. Unless, we don't have as much development going on, so we don't have a lot of folks, I mean, they come in fits and spurts, you know, as far as developer plans and things like that. So a lot of our meetings are talking about maintenance activities and things that we've got going on. So anybody wants to come over, just let me know. And
Absolutely.
First, once a month, first Thursday of every month. Meetings usually last like two plus hours or so. All right, cool.
Cool, great, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Can you tell me
Thank
your
you.
Very much.
What's her name again? Jason.
Jason Brennan.
Yeah,
Brennan.
he's got my,
Yep.
Eric's got my email.
Eric's got all these.
Yep.
I'll send a copy of that report just for the heck of it.
Thank you for your time, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
maybe I'll do it next year. Same thing.
You know, copies gotta go.
Yep. Yeah, one of these copies does have to go for the minutes. Tom, remember, one of the copies of the maps does have to go in the minutes?
Of this?
Yeah. One of these maps, yes.
Okay, I did not know that. Thank you for telling me.
Okay, that moves us on to our next piece of new business, which is the replacement of the Greater Woods Gate. So we already had this discussion last meeting. Jeff from the Greater Woods Subcommittee came down. Basically, the tree came down in the gate a few months ago. The swinging part of the gate is the only thing that has to be replaced. The vertical post, the foundation of the gate is still intact. That is just the central part that has to be replaced. I was delayed in contacting DPW over whether or not they would replace it for us, so I haven't gotten a response yet. So I do know in the past, sometimes DPW has done the replacing, sometimes we've done it.
Are we asking them to purchase it also, and replace it, or just physically put it in place?
I'm not sure, so I'm not sure if it was, were we gonna purchase it and they were just gonna place it, or
Okay.
were they gonna handle everything, or are we gonna handle everything?
And what are we gonna do with the gate we take out of there to the
Dump.
dump?
I just had a conversation with DPW about a gate. And I asked them if that was something that they would be, okay, forget it, strike that comment. I asked them to do something, and they said that it would require pouring cement. And they said that would we buy the cement for them to do this job? They'll do everything else with the job, but buy the cement. And I was thinking of the gate, but this was about, we have a bench that gets washed away on an annual basis.
Mhm.
And we're trying to figure out a way to anchor it, so we're gonna try to cement it to the ground and see if that'll keep it there.
If it gets washed away, why don't we find another place for it?
Because all of Sklar gets washed away.
Mm.
Our trails go underwater every year, so.
It's in a place, I mean, that's a legitimate question, but I think it's there partly because this is a nice view.
Okay.
I can ask that question at the meeting. Would
Just
we
move
be-
it back or move it somewhere higher or something, just,
Yeah, yeah.
I know Squat's pretty flat, but. Right.
So, but back on the subject of Greater Woods, do we have, well, one thing, should we vote on it if, we're unsure if what DPW we hand, I mean, can we at least like vote on the possible allocation of funds for it if necessary, or is that,
We need a quote,
necessary?
Mhm.
we need a quote to do it.
Do we have a quote yet?
Oh, that's true.
So, can I just, this is my opinion. A number of years ago, we voted to put this in here. This commission voted to put these gates in here.
Yep.
We went up to the town and got approval to change their classification of the road. I mean, this was a pretty substantial project, as far as paperwork goes, because we did a lot of changes. This is a maintenance item.
So we
To
would
me.
not need to go through the quote
I don't
process.
understand why we need to vote on this at all. We have a gate that broke and we need to replace it.
Yeah, so since it is maintenance, it does not fall under the finance rules that we were discussing this past summer. We don't have to go through the process again, like 3 quotes and sending them to the town.
But we do need to,
We need to find out how much it would cost, but
yeah, and then we still need to vote to approve the cost, I assume. Imagine. In order to remove money from Fund 53, we would have to.
Finance won't cut the check if we have.
Right, exactly.
oh.
So why don't, when you message DPW, just ask them, would we pay for the gate or would you guys pay for the gate? And then that will just clarify it, right?
And if we pay for it, do they have a supplier? How much is it?
Yeah.
Do we know
Well,
how
that-
long the gate is? Is it a 10-footer?
I don't remember.
At least a 10, maybe a 12-footer.
Enough to get across a one-lane road. Enough so that it blocks a
Yeah.
one-lane road.
That's at least 12 then. On a very nice
Well,
road, is it?
we purchased it initially.
Okay, then we
So,
probably need
that's
to
just, I mean,
purchase.
it was purchased by, or either by us or for us, so I mean,
Then we can ask
we
ComDev
should-
for
we
the
should-
previous.
somewhere we should have manufacturer, what it was, and the spec on it.
So we can email ComDev instead.
I think this went in on an Alpha Tractor quote. Does that sound familiar to you? I think this was Matt's, Matt took care of this one. I believe he was the chair at the time. Matt Karen.
Okay, so we can email ComDev, try to find the original records of the purchase. And, I mean, would that just give us the specs of the gate? Is that how
It'll
we-
give
And a
us
manufacturer,
resell
place
bid.
to start,
Oh, yeah,
to
okay.
replace it.
So we should assume we're paying for it and do this to figure out how much and from where.
But a vote shouldn't be necessary since it's repair? Or does everyone think that we should have a vote?
You should have to vote on the amount so it can be
Hmm.
pulled.
Okay,
But we may still need to get that information. Which comes first, getting information about what the original gate cost or setting something aside now? I'd rather have more information to work with.
Yeah, I don't wanna to vote on nothing.
Yeah, I don't wanna have to
Yeah.
redo a vote later.
So we have no idea to even guess how much
Yeah.
one of
That's
those
right.
costs.
That's right, I know I don't have any idea.
Okay, I will email ComDev for the specs on the original seller, and we'll put it on the agenda for December 23rd.
I thought we canceled December
Have we already
23rd.
canceled December 23rd? Because actually, that was another question I was going to answer.
I believe we
Ask.
did.
Who's gonna be absent?
Yeah,
Y'all gonna-
who's planning to not be at the December 23rd meeting as of now?
Yeah, that one might be kinda tough, hold on.
Yeah, that one's
Yeah.
pretty tough on me, it's iffy leaning no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so maybe just cancel it.
Okay.
I thought we already did.
And we discussed it.
Yeah, I think we
so
discussed,
don't
I don't think it
Cause I already deleted it off my calendar.
Then
And it's
can-
not,
then
well,
it's
no, but it's
canceled.
not, and this is the calendar from, I'm subscribing to our calendar, and it's not there.
Are you
Oh, well then,
expecting it to be replaced before we get too far into winter? Are you hoping it's gonna be replaced, or are you aiming for spring?
I really can't speak for Jeff, but I would assume that just before the spring. I'm not sure if if it's necessary that it gets replaced before the winter. I don't know, Gage, would you know?
Yeah, I mean, if we discussed briefly that if it wasn't gonna get replaced, we might just chain the other side up to the other post, just so it can't be pushed out of the way easily.
And there's no issue with no maintenance vehicles need to get through there at this point to have that?
There's a lockbox. There should be a lockbox on the other
So
side.
it's still functional, you can still move it.
Well, the tree's gone, right, so,
Has the gate itself been removed? I thought the
I
central
don't,
part of the gate was already moved too.
I don't know, I don't think so.
The gate's
Oh.
still there.
It's still
Oh,
there.
okay,
Yeah,
my
'cause
mistake.
Jeff and I were just saying, we're gonna chain up the other side if we have to. I'll catch up with Jeff and find out.
Okay.
There is another gate, that a tree fell on years ago, which is damaged, not quite as bad as the one, on South Crater Road. Never was fixed, it's still there with the, deformed, the new deformed state.
Is that at Greater Woods? Is that at Sklar?
Yeah, it's right on, there is an access road for emergency vehicles, on BB Lane. And that's where it is. It's been this way for years, and I don't really see any need to.
We proposed a
but-
property swap a number of years ago, got 99% of it done, and at the last moment it fell apart. The road had already been cut, the gate had already been put up, so that gate is now on private property. But it is a emergency access for Greater Woods.
Mhm.
this is the one he's talking about.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so I'll look into the specs in the seller. You'll talk with Jeff.
Yep.
See like deadlines and scheduling and stuff like that. Okay. That brings us to an item I'm adding to the agenda, which is, we just got an email today about the seedling giveaway. And we thought it might just be a good idea to get that part out of the way now instead of waiting until all the good seeds are taken.
Yeah.
We typically spend, we've never spent more than, I think the most expensive year we had like, it was almost $600. So we are always below that, and I will go ahead and prepare this and get it down to ComDev so we don't miss the deadline this year. If everyone's okay with that.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna make a motion that I'm going to spend not to exceed $600 out of Fund 53 for the purchase of 2025 seedling giveaway.
Okay, any discussion about the
What was
seedling
the,
giveaway?
what was the amount, 600 you said?
Not to exceed.
Okay.
So, doesn't sound like any discussion needed. Okay, so, all in favor of the motion? All opposed? All abstaining? Motion passes 7-0 to 0. Okay, so that brings us, so I've added 3 discussion points for other items of concern. Let's just go ahead and start with the brainstorming session from presented by Karis. It was too late to add it to the new agenda, although it is on the agenda for December 23rd, which might not happen. But we all discussed this at our last meeting. So basically, we're talking about sort of 5 to 10 year plan and items to focus on. And Karis asked us all to maybe come up with 1 or 2 ideas that you think would be good for the commission to focus on for the next 5 to 10 years. So take it away.
Okay, first of all, raise your hand if you did come with 1 or 2 ideas. Okay, good, so we're prepared. I'm just gonna start by going down, actually, does that computer work? I wouldn't even know where to write anything, I guess, if I got in there. I'll just use the paper.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go down the aisle and people list me your 1 to 2 ideas.
We're getting the okay that it does work.
It does work.
Hmm.
Okay,
Well,
I don't know what application to use here, but I guess I can log into Google. Can I log into Google? Do I know how to log into Google? Google logs in itself on my phone.
Already had all this written.
here it comes. Here comes the boss.
I just need a blank sheet.
Just like WordPad or something like that.
Microsoft
Justin?
Word? Oh, Christ, yeah, I don't know about that.
You s- Karis, did you say you need a sheet of paper? Karis,
Yeah.
did you say you needed paper?
No, I have paper.
Okay.
I have a whole packet. There is Word. I'll just send this to myself. Can I send this to myself afterwards? Yeah, we'll figure it out. Okay, we'll figure it out afterwards. You guys know what we're all
Yeah, it's right there.
No, we can
See it on here.
Yes.
Aren't we excited? Oh my gosh, okay, so I'm just gonna start by listing.
Can you give us your name and address, please?
I'm sorry, yes. I'm just going to start by listing everyone's ideas. Tom, go.
Okay, the 2 that I came up with have sort of already been mentioned. You mentioned the schools at the very beginning of the meeting, and we talked about maintenance. But I do have another one that I came up with, and I don't know if I would put this as a long-range plan. Over in Amherst, they have a piece of property called Joe English Hill. They have signs next to, in various places, next to the trail, and only close to the trailhead. It's not like these signs are go deep into the property. And the signs are like little plaques, and they provide information and photos of the fauna and flora that you're looking at as you're walking through there. And I just thought that might be, I don't think we should be putting signs all over the place, but, like in Greater Woods, I use that all the time because I'm always there. There are ponds, there are wetlands, something that would say, this is how this wetland was created. This is what you will see here, if you come in the fall, if you come in the winter, something like that,
Okay, so like informational plaques about ecology,
yeah.
like things you would find in a nature preserve. Wait, they are like nature preserves. Okay.
Did you have a second idea? Or just the one? That's fine. It's just,
Well, I was gonna talk about maintenance and coming up with a Kubota, coming up with like some kind of a long-range plan for, can we buy our own equipment? If we did, where would we store it? And I don't know if that's a 10-year plan, but, you know, an ongoing attempt to improve how and what we do for trail maintenance.
Quick note on that, if we looked at buying something like that Kubota, remember, we're no longer allowed to use power tools in the properties. So we may want to bundle that in and maybe get that overturned. Just thought I'd mention that.
yeah. If we decide these aren't long-term plans, we can move them down to our 20 tasks for the year that I think we should adopt based on Litchfield, which is really brilliant. But let's just get the ideas out first, and then we can shift things around. Steve?
Yes, I had two. The first one, on a property map, it's lot 5C, 659. So essentially, that's the parcel we talked about a year ago. It's the one between Wildcat and the FE Everett Turnpike. This is, we've been working on this for 6 years. It's not gonna, this
Well, it's
won't
been more than
play
6
out.
years.
Yeah, well, I've got correspondence going back, you know, the
Yeah.
town council wrote the state Department of Transportation owns that lot. It's part of the FE Everett Turnpike widening.
This is the one that we want transferred to us.
Yeah, in lieu of an ARM fund donation, it's in everyone's best interest, in lieu of that, in lieu of the state writing a big check to the ARM fund, it should be mitigated here in Merrimack where the impacts are happening. And just to bring everyone up to date, I mean, the town council proposed that in 2018. In December of 2022, Paul McCallie wrote a note reminding them that that was our plan and our preference. Last December, almost a year ago, I think it was last December 19th, we talked about it, we made a motion, we approved it, we wrote a letter to Paul's went to the Department of Transportation, ours went to DES. Probably we should kick the tires on that every year just to remind people it's important to us. It's, you know, when we did this, you know, when GZA did this assessment, that was one of these 20, you know, areas that they rated as a top priority.
Yep.
It's something like 75 acres, I think, is the size. So I just think it's not thrilling, but that is, I think, should be one of our priorities every year until we get what we want with
75
that.
acres is nothing to,
And my second
It
priority.
doubles the size of Wildcat, which is
Yeah.
80 acres.
Mhm.
And it's a mid-six-figure check to the state, I believe, so.
It was a bizarre calculation. So the reason we talked about it last December was because there was a dredge and fill permit.
Yep.
And that was the feedback. That's basically what catalyzed our response to DES. That's why we wrote that letter to them, or that correspondence to them, not DOT. But yeah, there was a formula, but there's no check should be needed. That parcel will be useless to the State Department of Transportation once the widening happens.
right.
I think the town manager told us that it makes sense. They're gonna wanna keep that till the
Yeah, it's
till the
laid-
widening
laid
takes
down.
place,
Yeah.
because they'll
Yeah.
use it as a staging area.
Yeah.
It's level, it's right
Yeah.
next to the turnpike.
So to go with this, but I don't want to like attach it to the bit about the state land, there's another privately owned parcel of land
One that we
wedged in
shouldn't
right in
discuss.
between there that is basically just a pond/swamp. And it serves no real useful
Oh.
purpose to anyone, but it would help protect the water within Wildcat. And
Okay.
we should look into whether we could purchase that.
You should add that as one of your two when we get there.
Okay.
I'm gonna-
My second
I'm gonna
one.
do this structurally.
Thank you, Karis, for keeping him out of my time. My second item, if I were gonna recommend a second priority, is Fields Farm. We know we're not gonna get those back lots transferred. That's 80 acres. Yeah, no, that's 95 acres, I believe, Fields Farm. Does that sound right? People are using it, but we're not, you know, we own it, the town owns it, but we're not providing access to it, not good access, not access that doesn't.
We're supposed to be managing that property. We're
Yeah.
supposed to be stewards of that property.
And we have to overcome the obstacle of an access point, a trailhead.
So,
So Fields Farm is to find an access point and manage the property.
Probably something to do with parking as well.
We will
Yes.
discuss more on, I'm just gonna have you
so that-
state it
that-
and we'll
that- yeah,
discuss it
that would be-
afterwards.
Okay,
That
yeah.
would also be the genesis of a Fields Farm subcommittee.
Yes, okay. I will let you all defend your ideas after we get them down. Okay, Ms. Jennifer Jobin.
Mine are much more generic. Communication, which I think is something you're already working on, but, you know, we always see like on the forums, people saying, oh, where can I go for a hike in the area? And I'm like, we have all these hiking trails right here, so finding a way to get that out to residents. And that kind of coincide with growing the volunteer network, which it sounds like got a good volunteer network, but maybe if more people knew about these properties, then you'd have more people involved. And then I put continue the educational programming. I think growing that is a good idea. And I really loved his idea about the QR codes with citizen reporting at the properties. That's pretty easy to do, so.
I'm gonna put that under the 20 tasks, that's pretty easy. Ellen.
Refresh and maintain connections with other community groups, and this comes from Horse Hill when we met recently. The Spalding Foundation is a town historical resource, and that requires maintenance every year to make sure that the lilacs and not the poison ivy take it over. And it's time to, I know that the subcommittee is going to be reaching out to the Historical Society, but make sure that when we have properties like, sites like that within our properties, that we pull in as many neighbors as possible to maintain them and let the public know about them, because the more people who care about it, the more likely they are to be maintained. Also, we are thinking in Horse Hill of the communication we have with NEMBA, the Mountain Biking Association. The subcommittee is going to be thinking of some new trails that we will be bringing before here, and there's one in particular that can only be done with the assistance of neighbors like that. So definitely keep community connections going. And second, I think when I first joined the commission and asked if I could see any of the documents so I could get oriented, I was shown to the corner of the closet in community development where all of our stuff is. And we've got things like biodiversity reports and property inventories that are 10 to more years old. Within the next 10 years, it's going to be time to look at having these things done again. We need to keep an eye on do we need new information, where should we get it, and ask for it with confidence. It's going to require an investment, and if we need to bring the town council on board, fine, but we're looking at a time when some of those reports are going to need to be updated.
Eric.
Yeah, so, I had 3 ideas, but Ellen kind of already said one of them, so that solved that problem. But yeah, so one thing was that just, doing more scientific research on our properties. I mean, conflict of interest, I do work for an environmental consulting firm, although I don't think our work would be relevant to the work that we would be doing here, except maybe along with.
We don't have any ocean.
Yeah. So the other ideas I had, I think it would be a good idea to do something with the history of the properties. I know Jason mentioned they did an archaeological dig, and I've done a lot of research on the history of Merrimack, specifically about like the Native Americans who lived here beforehand, and yeah, I know like it's not conservation property, but if you look on that map that we got from Litchfield, the 2 islands towards the top of the Merrimack River, those are 2 actually pretty legendary islands in history.
Blueberry Island?
Is that what they're called?
I think that's Blueberry Island, yeah. Is it? Let's go.
I don't know. I just know, cause that was land that was given to Pat Conaway, in his retirement, who was the Native American who sort of was the tribal chief of all of southern New Hampshire and a lot of northern Massachusetts, at the time of colonization. And, you know, he's a big figure and, you know, and that's not conservation land. I think it is town-owned land, both by Litchfield and Merrimack. I'm not entirely sure about that. But like, you know, and, there was a Sauhegan village, along the Sauhegan River called Sauheganok. And I don't know, like, if we're talking about like archaeological digs or just education, but, there's a lot of interesting history in Merrimack and, and especially on our land. And, you know, maybe we could do something like with the Historical Society. So that was one idea I came up with. And the other idea is, we've talked about this before, so it's really not sure if it even needs to be mentioned, but, that's, just rebuilding the town website. I think we can modernize it, make it more informative. I don't know the specifics, but, and I know Andrew and Karis have been talking about this a lot, past year, so,
Good news.
Did you
Updates are being made.
Yeah.
Oh,
Did you guys
okay.
get your account information?
Yes, so we started, and I did start undertaking an effort to modernize and improve our town website. And when I got to like 8 pages of notes, I kind of lost the desire to live.
Oh, no.
All right,
But yes,
but you got your accounts are set up, you have access to the.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Gauge.
Am I limited to 2?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We don't have a forester any longer. Our forester passed away, his replacement has since left the company. We had a forester on retainer, we do not any longer.
Who is we?
Concom,
Okay. We do not have a forester.
we do not have a forester, and that was someone we paid on a retainer, and they came in on a regular basis and helped us manage stands, told us when to cut, where to cut, how to cut. And any, like the Gateway Trail, that was all managed by a forester. That was someone who understood, you know, who they need to talk to and how we pay for that road was paid for by itself by the timber that got taken out. So there's a lot of benefit to folks like us who trying to do our part but don't know what we don't know.
Okay.
And that's where we get a lot of support from a good forester,
Okay.
and we do not have one.
And that's not related to the fact that we dropped the certified forest, whatever.
Tree farm.
Tree farm, no,
Tree farm, okay,
totally separate, yeah.
okay. Okay, Gage, your definite second one, 'cause we
Okay,
definitely have one.
I think we need to have a land acquisition agent. And it needs to be someone, one of us, obviously. That's a very, we've got a lot, you know, the map that Steve held up, we've got a lot of property in town, small parcels, little parcels that connect. We've been trying to make a greenway for quite some time. There's, you know, someone who's obviously not a lawyer, but someone who's gonna be getting familiar with the properties, familiar with the people that own the properties, keeping in contact with them, trying to kind of proffer those relationships and have some idea of what is available to them tax-wise when they donate a property versus trying to sell it on the open market.
Okay.
We
Sounds
could,
terrifying, don't make me that person.
we could probably work with the SPNHF on that. They have a whole staff who knows a lot about stuff like that.
Right, but there should be a point person.
Right, but we
Okay.
could learn from them.
Yes, right,
what's
but there should
involved
be a
and-
point
and
person
how to
because
do
it's,
that.
we need to be keeping in touch with the people that own these parcels, letting them know we're still interested, letting them understand what the advantages are of being
Mhm.
part of this community
Like
versus.
that parcel that came off
So we shouldn't,
Profile
and
Drive.
one of them
recently.
we shouldn't talk about in public, so we
Yeah.
don't have
Yes.
anyone else knowing about them.
Yes.
Every time you guys have brought up land, I'm like, this isn't one of those,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Don't start
Okay.
saying anything.
Yeah.
Also, could you repeat what the acronym is?
I
SPNHF.
got it right.
Society for Protection of New Hampshire Forests.
I bet it is the only thing that will come up when I Google that. It's
I
one
bet it
letter
is.
too many.
They're in Concord. It's a very nice place.
Okay. Okay, Andrew, Dwayne.
So my first one is a little bit sort of mundane and administrative, but I think we need to expand and formalize our process for recruiting new members to the Concom, to the subcommittees, and maybe to some of the other committees. And I think we can also include with that the ability to formalize, we've talked about this, like when an Eagle Scout wants to do a project, that we can put them in touch with a subcommittee that has a project that needs to be done. So, did you break something?
Oh, I am probably kicking things. There are lots of cords down there, and they're right where my
There it
feet
is,
are.
they're back.
Oh, it's back?
They were at one point. It's not your fault, though.
Oh, no, you're good.
Are they
Don't
back?
undo that.
Yeah.
They're back. We're good. Don't screw up what I
Keep your feet to yourself.
unscrewed. Dang,
Okay.
can't.
And that process, a lot of it will be online. We have new social media thanks to Karis, but also in public places. We have a few random postings here in the town hall. We have one or two random postings that show up occasionally in the library. We can do better than that.
Yeah.
And that will, some of the subcommittees I notice are starting to struggle to keep members on, and it's nice to get some new blood once in a while.
So that connects to like the communicating with the public. Go
Yeah,
hand in
it's very much together. I guess as the second one, we'll do potential land acquisition of that parcel next to Wildcat Falls. I was trying to get onto
That
Merrimack
we shouldn't
GIS
talk
to look it
about
up.
in public?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, don't mention where it is, but aside from in town, I think we can say that right. Potential land acquisition. Okay. Let me remember what mine were.
I got more if you need them.
No. Wait, I had one. Okay. Okay, this is sort of goes with fragmentation. Okay. Work to reduce fragmentation, both. So going with the, like, the greenways, building the greenways, but also like within a property. So,
Within a property.
so assessing trail locations
Okay.
and,
Can you give us a for instance, like you obviously, I'm assuming you have a site in mind or a trail in mind, something that,
no, I don't have a specific trail in mind.
oh, okay.
I'd have to look at a map, but there, I can't, where was
That's all right.
I was
just curious.
looking, so I recently learned from some source, can't remember, it might have been the NHACC thing we go to, about the impact of fragmentation due to even trails in properties, and how just the locate, and like, so there's like, from a trail, there's like a certain distance on either side that's impacted by people using the trail. And so you can build a map based on that. And the goal is to, basically they had a property and almost all of it was covered. Like if you highlight all the impacted areas in red, almost the entire thing was covered. So they rerouted some trails in order to.
So it's like Field Farm.
Could be. I would need more information on that. That's before my time. But
I remember what you were talking about. It had to do with if there's a trail with a certain amount of traffic on it, wildlife is impacted for a certain
Right,
radius around
exactly.
that trail.
exactly. So if trails cross too much, or like you can reroute trails or delete small redundancies and make a large impact in reducing the impact.
And be aware that some of our trails are multi-use. Some of our trails are meant to be used by mountain bikers,
Yes.
so.
Yeah.
Anything we do about fragmentation needs to reflect the fact that we're aware that there's multiple uses for some of the
Yes.
trails.
Yep, that's where it would be an assessment and seeing where can we reduce fragmentation, and then that also, I think it, like, to make this really general, it would be work to reduce fragmentation, and it would include trail assessment, but it would also include making a greenway. I'm gonna say whatever someone else said, making a greenway by obtaining small parcels of land to complete corridors. Okay, so the next step is to take a look at all our ideas and see, can we combine any into a single objective? So everyone, take a minute and look. Can any of these be, maybe I should number these instead of dot them so that they're easier to
Well,
You've
the
got two that say
formalized
land
recruiting
acquisition.
process and the growing the volunteer network obviously overlap quite a bit.
Okay. Can you give
So
me
that's-
numbers?
So that's number 13 and number 6.
Okay. Subcommittees.
And then 12 and 13 are both land acquisition.
You're right. They are literally just both land acquisition. Oops.
I think 1 and 6 kind of go together. I'm sorry, 1 and
The history one, right?
um,
Maybe?
1 and
1 and 9, I believe.
I was looking at the
No.
one connections
No.
with the community.
Yeah.
That would be 8.
Oh, that would be educational. That would be part of educational
Okay.
programming.
Yeah.
Would be informational plaques about ecology.
Can we expand the educational program a little bit,
Where is that?
the number 6?
Expand on it.
Yes, because we, as a commission, we have supported over the course of the last
Yeah.
few years, classes, outdoor classes.
Yes.
We had the vernal pool party, we've had 3 vernal pool parties. We've had 2 transit walks. So there's things like that that we continue to provide those actual outdoor activities.
Is it worth even considering, sort of one at a time, having a sponsored walk through each of our properties?
Sure.
Okay.
I
So
think that helps with the communication part.
Yeah.
Are the classes thing, is that, we saying that's part of 6 also?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. So we have communication with the okay. So long range plan for management, equipment, etc. Maybe that should be more of a
I have something to add to that one. We should also reach out to the subcommittees and see if they have any long-range plans for their particular properties. Encourage them to build a small list. Do they get 2 items each?
Okay.
Also, before we go any further, I should just add that number 9 can probably become part of number 6 as well.
Hold up. I also have another. Right, number 9. You're right. Okay. Oh, that's very helpful so far.
And you can add to number 6, the MLMF, the Michael Laverne Memorial Foundation.
Is there a way to add reduce fragmentation to land acquisition?
That's, from how you spoke about it, the trail
Trail part
fragmentation
is
is, I
separate.
think, different than land acquisition.
Yes.
But-
Yes.
But the reduced fragmentation, as far as supporting a greenway development, then yeah, that's,
Okay.
so we just have to, that's almost two different items.
Yeah, okay.
And we do have one thing that we've spoken on in the past that we don't have on here. And that was, we wanted to talk about, scheduling, support for the structures and the properties. You know, IDing the structures and then saying, okay, this is, you know, this is what you need to do to support them. I mean, we have enough structures out there right now. We need to make sure that they're safe and they're viable to be, continue to be used.
So like a
That
maintenance
goes with
schedule.
number one.
Yeah.
That would result from that, yeah, if you need an inventory of pavilions, boardwalks, bridges,
Right.
okay.
And maybe something with signage out in the area itself, trail markings.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe that's in itself a whole conversation that we should have at some meeting, but it sounds like we have a lot of management
Structure
areas that
inventory,
we
just so
can-
we, inventory is kind of a broad, we have a whole bunch of inventories.
Where did I write the word?
Last line.
That's one, just structure inventory, so we have, not like,
So,
not like
okay.
wildlife inventory, plant inventory, we have a lot of them.
So we have a lot of things under long-range management. Trail labels,
Trail markers.
markers,
markings.
thank you. Okay, among what we have here, is there anything we think would not be, should not be included on a long-term plan?
What's 7?
Assess current,
Evaluate if we need new, for instance, inventories of biodiversity or property. We might not, but some of the, if we were looking at, if we're working with 20-year-old information,
Okay,
make sure it's
yep.
valid 20-year-old information.
I mean, we're gonna have to, people did not wanna let me in there when I first joined, and I was like, can I take a look at all our stuff? And they're like, they did not wanna let me in there. And I'm like, look,
I just walked in, said hi, and planted myself in the corner and literally stayed out of their way while
I need to just walk in one day and say, look,
with a smile and say, please.
excuse me, I'm
Well, are you talking about the same place?
all the MCC documents.
It's in the, I know, it's in the bathroom.
Yeah, nobody wanted to let me physically look at it. They're like, well, what do you want to look at? And I'm like, no, I just want to browse through it. And they're like, well, I can send you specific documents. And I'm like,
No.
Bring
I
cookies.
want to see
We'll
what
talk, Kara. Is access is, yes.
it is feasible.
You are a member of a town commission, a town department. We
I'm
support
pretty
them, they
sure
support us.
I
We
have
got
both the
this.
right and the responsibility to
We
look
got
at this
this.
stuff. Okay. So we have long-range plan for management on the properties. Fields Farm, we need to manage that property. But that should be, it's definitely be its own thing, because that is itself.
Yeah, it should be its own subcommittee.
Improving communication with the public.
I don't know if that's a long, I mean, that could be a shorter term goal.
Yeah, it could be part of that. I mean, I feel like
Could be part of number 4.
these things.
And 5.
Yep.
Yeah, is there a term that sort of encompasses all of this? Community outreach. And then, it would like, okay, this is clearly not Word.
Yeah, so those would be like an
It's
A
not
and a
big.
B under 3. A 3A, 3B.
We're just gonna have to do it like this.
Does tab not work?
It does not, to my great disgust. Who invented
we're
the
in WordPad,
stinking
not
mini
Word.
Word? Okay, growing the volunteer network, continuing educational programming, yeah, so like, all of that is community outreach related, right? We would like community outreach to be a priority. Is that acceptable to collapse all into one?
Mhm.
We want to refresh and maintain connections with other community groups. Historical, what other community groups are there?
School district.
Oh, okay.
think there was maybe Historical Society.
Yeah, Historical
mentioned.
Society.
We have an agriculture society in town.
We do?
We do?
Yeah, we used to, right?
I don't
There's a
know if
garden
it's, I
club.
don't know if it's still active, but
No. We did.
okay.
Do we have agriculture in a town aside from Courier Farm Orchards? It's the only thing I know.
Say that again, what'd you say?
Do we have other agriculture in town aside from Courier Orchards? Or has it all been converted to non-agricul property change?
No, they still hay down by South Egan. And Courier,
That's not-
and
My neighbor has a pretty big garden.
I had one in my head. another
Actually, I
ago.
think some of his land is still listed as agricultural with the town.
Oh.
Yeah,
He's got a
that,
big
the
farm,
commission
been there
was
for a lot of
disbanded.
years.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay, assess current inventory,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
that needs to be, that needs to be one. I've thought about that too, because our something nature inventory words, that's from like 2011.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I bet some of this is no longer relevant, or it has changed, I don't know. Yeah, it needs to be updated.
inventory documents in that bathroom.
We need to get a forester. Say more for me about what that's about again. What do they do?
So they manage forests. They actively go in and manage forests, so they have built, and written, forestry plans for us.
Okay.
They actively go out and determine, the cut cycle of a forest, maintain the forest health.
Okay.
They do a lot of the footwork that we go through and say, oh, look at these nice trees, and like, oh yeah, you see that, that's that blight that's coming up from all here, and it's showing up, and you need to do
Okay,
this and
yep.
that, and so it's just a matter of understanding what we have, that,
Yeah.
it's not my profession, it's not your profession.
Yeah, and do they,
This is what
do
they
they
do.
help at all with invasive tree species too? Like
Sure.
identifying that's a Norwegian maple.
Yeah.
Chop that thing down.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
And help recover from problems like the fire at Wildcat
There was a fire at Wildcat?
many years ago.
Before my time.
Yes.
Okay, then land acquisition plus agent. And work to reduce fragmentation.
I think-
Should that be on here?
I think it should be on there, but I think we might
Okay.
wanna have it in two, like, fragmentation of the properties is one thing, and the fragmentation of the trails is very different, but
Okay.
equally as important. This is killing you, isn't it?
It's driving me nuts.
Builds character.
Yeah, that's good. That,
Yeah. This is a beautiful list. Now, initially I said no more than 5, but I feel like it's okay to have 8.
Well, the forester seems to me like not a 5 to 10-year plan. That's something
That's
that
sort of
can be
a,
That
done
could be
fairly.
short-term.
yeah,
fairly
that's
quickly.
true.
yeah, and well, it's going to take some time. You have to interview and find them, and,
Do
you
we
think
do
it'll
that?
take 5 years?
no, but.
Does that entirely get done through the Conservation Commission, or do we have to like get permission from someone?
No, I mean, we're hiring someone to work on our behalf.
Okay.
So it's just like if we'd hire
Do you know,
someone to go,
you have any, like, how expensive was the last forester? You said it was
oh boy,
retainer?
that was a while.
Hmm.
I don't know. I would not have a good value. If I gave you one, I would not know if it was accurate.
Hmm.
Again, we did it all in public comment, so we have the values, we have the quotes, we have the names of the people that came and bid on it, so.
This is beautiful. Well, at least it has the quick increase size button. Okay, this is a beautiful list. It's 7. It's only 7 beautiful things that we should be objecting. I'm not gonna try English anymore. Can we switch languages? sign language, let's do that. Goals for the next year-ish, very quickly. Do people have goals? 20 goals for the next year-ish?
Somehow since COVID, the 20th anniversary of the acquisition of Horse Hill has been not a thing. I'd like to make it a thing.
Like to make the by now, is it gonna be a 25
I cannot
years?
remember the exact date. It will not be up to 25, but Horse Hill is a gem of a property, and a lot of people have moved into town since it was acquired, and I think this is a good time to highlight it, make sure the town knows about it, knows what a resource it is, thereby getting more folks invested in helping to maintain it.
The front of that report has got to have date in it.
Yeah.
So,
This is 2002,
2002?
purchase the property.
Yeah. I mean, all our properties are gems, but I don't mind coming here and speaking for the Horse Hill Subcommittee. We are fans.
Should we make some of the goals for next year like sub-goals of the larger ones that we have?
Yeah, we could do
So that
that.
those are steps towards those.
new maps.
Say again?
New
New
maps.
maps, yes.
Yeah. Well, that's in the that's literally in the works, isn't it?
Right, so when we get it done, we get to cross something off.
I think that's cheating, because that's
No.
really like something that was on our last year.
First thing I do when I say make a list, I make a list so I can check that off.
I think that something we should do at a future meeting, because it's already 8:12, is go through each of these long-term goals and come up with a list of short-term goals underneath them.
Yeah, things like
So that's a
community
goal.
outreach covers a lot of territory.
So you're gonna send this out to COMCOM right now?
Say that what?
Are you gonna send this out to COMCOM right now?
As soon as we figure out how to do that, yes. I could probably log in, but then you'd see my email, so don't do that right now.
It
We'll
will
do that
just take,
afterwards.
yeah, we'll just have them.
Just click on
take-
file for a second. Does it say
File.
share? Send an
Well, I
email.
would need an email address to send it from. So we'll do that
Justin-
after.
Justin can figure this out.
So Eric, I also have a bunch of updates on things before we close tonight.
That's okay. I got nowhere to go.
Oh, great. Well, okay, maybe I'm the only one who wants to go to bed, but do we want to add anything more to this list now or save that for a future?
Didn't you have one or two more things you were gonna add?
Oh, to
Gareth?
to
The
this?
agenda.
Gareth,
To the agenda?
Can you send me a copy
Three
of
more,
that?
two of which are.
Oh, I'm
pretty
sending
small.
this to everyone.
okay.
I just can't do it right now.
Yeah, I didn't mean right now.
Sure.
You
Thank
should
you
probably
for
name it something like
initiating that.
Concom goals instead of document.
Well, I'm just gonna send this and then it will be deleted off of this
Alright.
desktop at 12 p.m. tonight, no doubt, so I assume nothing gets saved to this desktop. That could be wrong. That could be wrong, because this 2024 Clean Water State blah 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 is there. That's okay. Okay, I'm gonna move back to
Okay, thank you for that. So there are a few more items under other items of concern. First was one that was added just before the meeting. It was a deadline for map changes. Who submitted that one?
Me.
Andrew Engage.
But we,
Well, I have an interest in it now.
we're just assuming, that we're saying, let's come up with a date that we want to make sure we have all the map, and communicate it down to the subcoms and say, look, get us all the changes, get us your inventory list, get us all that. By X date, we can turn it over to the gent that Dwayne has.
Okay, I'll
Andrew was-
say January 15th. Sound reasonable? It's
No.
about a month from now.
because the subcommittees won't meet by then.
Subcommittees don't really have to meet. Somebody just has to say, we have a bench right here.
Yeah, Horse Hill's got it.
I feel like Sklar has issues. I don't know why, but because I've never really been through any of the Sklar trails, but they seem to need to discuss this. Am I wrong, Tom?
You mean in terms of the map?
Yeah. And just sending everything.
I think that we've got, at least the map is, we don't, it's not complete because we still have to have NRPC come in, or they have to, we got some things we want to tweak on it. But I think it's pretty well set.
But could they be completely done by January 17th, 15th?
Why don't we pick-
Without, I don't, I'd have to contact NRPC.
I think that the holidays are gonna
Yeah,
make that difficult. Can we just add one more?
January 27th is the last meeting in January, obviously, 27th.
Okay,
Is that
All right.
enough time?
Yes.
Or the next meeting would be
that would be better.
February 10th?
February 10th. Can we do February 10th?
If you give them too much time,
We
they'll
need
take too much time.
Yeah, we
I'm okay
need
with
a date.
Okay,
Well,
January 27th.
All right.
so we're saying we want in hand all of the map changes, all of the structure inventory, everything by 27th of January.
Okay, everything.
And they can contact either one of us if they have questions.
Well, we're giving it all to you.
All right, then they can contact me if they have any questions.
Well, no, but the point you, that's the, that's the thing, we end up with this, oh, I'm doing this, oh, I did that, that's one person, get one thing,
Okay.
get it done, and
Yep.
we'll know.
so
Well,
we're
so-
just talking about maps. You want it like with the legends and all, and all that stuff, or like the rules, no motorized vehicles, or do we just want the map?
Well, the rules for all of our parcels are the same, pretty much now.
Right, but, so you
Um,
want,
So we have some work to do, because we have to go through and change our legend. We don't have any motorized vehicles in there. We don't need
Right.
to have signs that go up in the trees that say no motorized, because none of the things are motorized. Right? So we need to update our legend, so that's on us. The trails themselves need to be laid out. Even if they're maybe not mapped, I mean, we may still have to have NRPC come back and map them correctly, but at least they'll be on a piece of paper. It goes from here to here. They know what they're going. And we should also specify on there each structure. Like, is there a bench? Is there an outlook? Is there a
right,
whatever? So we know what needs to be, and we can start making some type of schedule for maintenance purposes.
And I just want clarification, how much of a finished product would the maps that we are submitting to Andrew have to be?
He said he either needs a KMZ file, which I'm sure no one knows how to produce.
It's easy, I mean, you can just do it on your
Yeah.
phone.
But he said, take a pen, draw circles on a copy of the map and scan it, and send it to them, and they'll take care of it. And that's what I did with Wildcat. They just took care of it.
Okay.
Because we have all the original, files from the original maps. So, we have those available. We can
I
make
think
those.
we have the updated ones from NRPC, don't we? The ones they've been working on?
I've not seen anything,
I was told by
so. we
someone
may,
on the
I don't know.
Wildcat Subcommittee who's been in touch with NRPC for a change we had, that they have a
Yeah.
file. We could have a map made today if we
Yes.
wanted one printed.
Wildcat is finished and ready to go. The other ones
And that we
are
can
not.
add information anytime we want that would go on NRPC's map, but what we have printed is what we had,
Right.
is what we'd have printed. So if we were to do a QR code or something linking to NRPC, people could get whatever the most recent thing is. But once we give them the direction, once we have something printed, what's on there is gonna
Good
stay there,
idea.
as long as it's in circulation.
Yeah, 'cause I think the QR code right now goes to Merrimack Outdoors. It goes to the map of Merrimack Outdoors. Right, well, that's where it goes down. But there's also a link from there to Esri, so you can do the actual location on the map, If you've got coverage in the woods.
Okay, so are we set on then for the deadline for map changes, January 27th? Ellen, you said you wanted
Yeah,
something to add?
Robert Price from ComDev forwarded to MCC an email recently from Chris Christensen of the trustee of the trust funds. And this should be, I don't think we need a vote, just to be aware of it. The trustees expect to do a cut at the Watkins Town Forest next year. Under the terms of the will, the trustees will have to go to town meeting to do this. It's their understanding that MCC manages the Mitchell Woods site, which abuts our parcel. In the past, MCC has worked with the trustees to provide access and a landing site. The trustees will be going before the town council on December 19th. Can the trustees tell the town council that we will work with them? I would think that, yes, that's
Yeah.
routine.
Yeah, I responded today, and I'm
Oh,
not, I think you were.
I didn't see that,
I think
sorry.
you were involved on the email, but yeah, I basically said,
I
as long
missed
as
it,
no one
sorry.
else had any objections, I'm okay with continuing what we've already been doing.
Thank
so-
you, I didn't, that's what,
Who
this
are
is
they-
what I get for not
did they-
checking
Did they
email.
say who's doing the cut?
No.
Would we be opposed to having them also survey Mitchell?
If they're on it.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed. Is this, I mean, this is a paid thing, right? Or is it volunteer? Would we like have to like front up any?
I don't know, usually we try to sell the wood back to the forester, so
Oh.
we typically end up making a little bit of money, not much, but we end up coming out positive.
Yeah,
So think about Gateway Trail, that whole Gateway Trail went in, that road was made and developed
Mhm.
from the expense that, from the cost of the lumber that we were paid.
And the kind of trees they're gonna be cutting down are the kind you want professionals to be dealing with.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I could ask Chris. So ask him if, survey or just cut.
Well, I think I don't know the deed for Mitchell Woods. We'd need to look at it, make sure that we can cut on
Mhm.
it, but it would seem to me if we're gonna let, their access point is, Mitchell Drive. And the only road that goes in there through the little gate there, so, and that's where the landing zone is when you get down that area, that's where the landing zone is, so. If we can have them survey Mitchell at the same time and find out what they're gonna cut. There's no reason I'm not opposed to having stuff cut in Mitchell.
Yep, I will, get back to him today or tomorrow.
It's quite interesting if no one's walked in there. It's really kinda cool. There's a section where obviously there was a major bunch of trees all taken down at the same time. So there's a thick forest that's all same size trees and they're all like bent over.
I really need to go visit that. I can walk to it. I live
It's-
very
it's really-
close to it.
Yeah, it's an interesting little spot.
I tried to find how to get into it from Profile Drive once, but was unable to. Supposedly, according to the map, there's a tiny trail.
There's an easement across
Yeah.
right between two people's yards.
Yeah.
And it's mowed.
And I couldn't figure out which two
Yeah,
people,
it's-
so I didn't
it's
wanna
mowed,
walk.
it's their yard. It's not, you're better off to go in from
Right.
Mitchell.
Because we also have one of those down at French Court.
Yep.
To get to the river.
Okay, so that actually was one of my items. So for me, it only leaves, do we want to decide tonight whether we cancel the December 23rd meeting? Or do you guys trust me to just?
Yeah.
It's canceled.
Okay.
We won't be there, so it's gonna be
I
canceled
won't.
anyways.
Yeah, if we're not, I mean, if we don't reach a quorum, then it doesn't matter. I will say, so I think Horse Hill had 3 subcommittee appointments for that meeting. Is that right? There were 3 subcommittee appointments scheduled for that meeting.
Okay, for Horse Hill, we had the one that was
Was
approved,
it just
Courtney,
one?
and I'm not aware of another, we don't have any pending right now, to my knowledge.
Okay, let me just see. This is what's on the agenda. Oh, sorry, yeah, so I have appointment of Marjorie Kuhn to the Greater Woods Subcommittee, appointment of Carrie Batiste to the Horse Hill Nature Preserve Subcommittee,
Mark
and appointment of Robert Batiste to the Horse Hill Nature Preserve Subcommittee.
Okay, I'm not familiar with either of them, but I'm very happy that they've come forward. I assume that came
Yeah.
from Mark.
I mean, I think it's really not that big of a deal if they're delayed to the next meeting, because, I mean, they'll still be allowed to.
Our next subcommittee meeting isn't until March,
Okay,
and
yeah.
they'll be available as volunteers.
Okay, so we can push that back to one of the January meetings. Another thing was the installation of new gate at Sklar, which is submitted by Karis. Are you all right with that being delayed to
Oh,
January?
yeah, that'll, that.
Yeah.
need to be.
And you also, discussion request for barriers at Sklar to close park for vehicles for winter flooding season.
That can also be. pushed
Okay.
back, that's fine.
And, let's see, everything else was, long-term objectives, continuation of what we did today. Discussion regarding surveillance cameras. We did, hear back from, was it Robert or Paul? I always confuse Robert and Paul, but on surveillance cameras.
Oh, good.
They're
That was one
just
of
people
the questions.
when I don't know what to do, I just
Yeah.
go to them. They did say something about the camera situation. I think Ellen, you were included on that email.
Paul was gonna reach out to the police chief, so it was probably Paul.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't have much information on that, right now.
What did
What,
they
what were they
say?
reaching out about? Like, if the police
Potentially
were
putting
willing
a
to do it?
trail camera there.
Well,
Sklar.
I had asked him what could be done with
Yeah.
and let him know about the cutting of those posts. And he said he would reach out on behalf of the commission to the police chief to see, is there anything further that can be done so that, to try to
Okay.
reduce?
So based on what we'd already talked with the police, and a trail cam is not gonna be sufficient, cause it's only temporary, and they get stolen themselves. Like we want, so I don't know if we can re-emphasize to them that we want, that we're willing to pay for something more.
I think
We
that
may
would
be
be
willing.
on the commission then to initiate that. I don't think that, they have some they can rotate around
Yeah.
and post temporarily. But if you want something permanent, then this commission needs to handle that.
Yeah, I think that's what we determined at the last meeting, is that we really want something more and need something more. Am I recalling that conversation correctly?
Yeah, yeah.
So what do we need to do, or who do we need to reach out to or say? Who do we need to tell we would like to do more? And we'd like, what do
Could-
we need to do?
Could we, before we tell anybody anything, could we, like, just research the cost? Like, I don't know
Cost of
for sure.
what?
Yeah,
cost
I
of-
wouldn't
but-
even know where to start.
I beg your pardon?
I wouldn't even know where to start.
Neither would I, but I mean, I'm willing to, I don't know if we want, I've looked at 'em, I've looked online at security cameras, and some of them are like behemoths. They would not be able to be, couldn't hide them, couldn't like put, so
What are you gonna do with the camera?
we plan to put cameras up, around the boat launch.
So you're gonna get hours and hours of footage? Who's gonna sit there and look through it?
Yeah, that's
And
where we
see-
need someone else.
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying, so I mean,
More.
there's,
Motion detected.
well, that's, so, so you're gonna get, every time the sun hits the water, every time a squirrel goes by, I mean, there's a lot of issues that you don't just put up a camera and you have security.
Yeah, we
There's,
need to talk.
there's much more to that. And
We
how
need-
do you get power down there? How do you get,
Paige,
I mean, I just,
that's where we need to, who do we talk to about where to begin with it? Cause I don't think we can even start looking, we can't even start looking for a quote, because we don't know how to surveillance work.
I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Maybe we just go to other commissions and people in our position, maybe, so, I mean, someone else must have had problems with vandalism, maybe they had,
probably go to the
Lit-
police.
Litchfield apparently doesn't. But for power, I mean, trail cams, we have a trail cam in our backyard, and it lasts about 6 to 8 months on a set of batteries. But you're right, at least half the pictures we get back are of nothing. It was a branch, some leaves fluttering in the breeze, or you know, the tail of a squirrel going by.
So, does anybody know who we would talk to about learning about surveillance?
The only thing we had any luck with in the past was when we had Fish and Game coming down there and doing patrols.
That worked?
Mm-hmm.
How often did they patrol?
The officer he lived over in Bedford, so he was going back and forth from Bedford to Concord, and he'd come by, once a week, different times, in the morning, in the afternoon, the weekends. He'd just show up and park his truck down there.
Mainly enforcing ATV
Yeah.
violators.
Yeah,
And if they're writing tickets, they
Yeah.
keep coming back because
because they get money if they write tickets.
Yeah. they know there's a problem.
Yeah.
But I know the last time we had him out there, he went,
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
they did details, they tried to write tickets, they just
Yeah.
didn't catch anyone doing the wrong thing.
Well, that's
We're currently vacant, so
why
we
we said
believe Thomas
last
Hofton is our
meeting
guy.
that we didn't think like the police going down there was gonna do much.
So I believe currently our conservation officer is Thomas Hofton, because, we're like, he's covering a pretty large area
Yeah.
right now, because they're looking to recruit a lot of people. Because Fish and Game has lost a lot of conservation officers to retirement and promotion, stuff like that. So right now, Thomas R. Hofton, is our guy. We're in, call number 42. But yeah, so, I don't deal with Fish and Game much, I guess. Do I just email him directly, or I'll email him directly and, see, if we can get maybe increased
That's
patrols.
how we started with the other officer.
Woodrow or
No,
McFadden?
he's retired now.
Okay.
We have Officer McFadden's numbers. He still works for Fish and Game, he just,
He's with Milford Police now,
oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
for about a year ago.
Yeah, that's why we have a vacancy here, which is why Hofton has to cover, I think I might have to cover 3 different areas right now. Or maybe two, at least 2, but maybe even 3.
But the problems we're seeing now aren't ATV related,
No.
right?
Not necessarily, we don't know
I
who's
mean,
doing it, it's
If
vandalism.
it's hunting violations or ATV violations, that falls within the purview of
Right, but like.
what Fish and
cutting-
Game would be interested
Cutting the
in.
wooden posts has nothing to do with them.
Yeah, this is just pure vandalism.
So do we contact 3 surveillance companies? Or do we ask someone in the town how we're supposed to go about it? Or if there's a certain way we're supposed to go about increasing some level of security?
Have,
Why don't we
have
start
we
with the
used
police?
surveillance cameras in the past? If we did, how did,
We had,
Did we have to seek
the police
approval?
put a couple trail cams down there. We had a couple of our own trail cams down there, and the license plates and stuff that we got were, nothing happened.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
obviously be willing to try it again, but there has to be some type of follow-through. When you have clear violations, you've gotta,
Right.
Yeah, it would clearly be, the cameras, you asked before about how would we keep track of, who's gonna watch these? When there's when there's an act of vandalism, that's when we get that's when we look at the camera
Yeah,
to see
you
if we
only
can-
look at the date
Yeah,
and time. You don't have to look at all of it. You just look
yeah.
when there's something that's happened.
And do the acts get discovered fast enough?
Yes, because Michael messages me anytime something happens.
Okay,
So pretty quickly, like that was noticed within 2 days, for sure, within 48
Yeah.
hours.
so they got 48 hours with the film to watch.
I mean, you
well,
just,
with motion sensors.
well, if it's the police cameras, it's motion sensors. I don't know about other cameras.
Old trail cameras, regular security cameras, yes, they are
They're just
24/7.
24/7.
Trail cameras are motion detected, motion activated.
So maybe we do the Fish and Game, we ask the police to do the trail cameras, game cameras. We continue discussion at the next, appointment about closing off Sklar for the off-season, for the the floody season, the winter season. I'm checking on that boat ramp to make sure that there are no legal limitations on that. It sounds like there aren't, like, if there's an off-season, then you can close it.
There is an issue that I thought of with closing off the road. We'd have to do it in such a way that we weren't preventing emergency vehicles from getting in.
Well, who's down there who needs an emergency? There are no homes down there.
Anyone that phones.
If somebody falls out of a tree, I mean, a lot of
No,
things can go on.
if you put up a gate, I mean, they're going through the gate.
A big
I mean,
van?
that's,
If you have the gate, they're gonna go through the gate. They'll get through the gate.
because that's the same with any of our
Yeah.
properties that have, any property that
I mean,
has a
we-
gate,
Yeah, we put
something could happen.
we put key boxes on them, but if they can't get through the key box, they're gonna get through the gate. They've got all the tools they need to get through a chain and get through a
Yeah,
fence.
they'll just cut the chain and go through.
So,
That's
so the gate, I mean,
Because like we're talking about, there are gates at here, but if someone gets injured, someone has to get through, right?
Right.
So it sounds like a gate's probably not
Yeah,
a.
I was looking for a short term, like, an over the winter solution.
Yeah.
And really, there was no practical solution I was hoping we could do something to stop traffic during mud season, so at least we could
Yes,
salvage some of the road.
Exactly. At least prevent the road from
Yeah.
being utterly destroyed immediately after being fixed. Yeah. So it sounds like we have a few mitigations that we can put in place. We have some to discuss in the future, and if these don't work, we can bring it up again.
Yeah, okay, so Fish and Game, Paul's already contacting the police department. And we'll see, hopefully we'll have at least some solid information at least, by the January meeting. And that ends all of my items of concern. Does anyone else have any other items of concern?
I have updates.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, first, have we heard anything about the Winter Carnival? Or whatever it's called?
I just talked to Matt the other day. He's moving it up a couple of weeks. I'm not sure the exact date.
Okay, but so somebody's hearing something, that's good. We have had lots of responses from schools. This summer, I tried emailing the schools about getting involved in the Adopt-A-Plot, nothing. But then I emailed them, like, yesterday, and then I immediately got, like, a bunch of emails. We have some students interested in volunteering for volunteer hours. Katie, I talked to her today. She said the robotics team is likely to get involved, and she'll talk to the National Honor Society. I have a number of teachers interested in developing programs, and somebody said all the science heads at the elementary schools are going to contact me, and they want me to meet with them all to discuss what we can work on and develop. A specific biology teacher contacted me, and, okay, does Wildcat abut the high school?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, so, because she wanted to know, she's like, I'm guessing school trips or field trips would be too hard for the next month they're doing invasives. And she said, she figures it'd be too hard, but she's willing to try, and I'm like, pretty sure all you have to do is walk out your front door. But, so, Wildcat is right there.
If they want invasives, the entry gate is being taken over by Kudzu,
So where's the entry gate in relation to the high school?
other side of the park.
And is there a way to access trails immediately from the high school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know the name of the trails?
It's a high school trail that goes down to one of their back athletic fields.
Yeah.
And if you just keep following it past the athletic field, you get onto the connector
The town center
between the
trail.
town center and Wildcat.
Okay. Awesome. I will talk to her about that. From those of you in all the various subcommittees, can you email me or ask the chairs to email me any, like,
volunteer, any help that you guys could use on the properties, whether it's picking up trash, whether you have, work days coming up, things like that. And so that I can like keep a resource for students wanting volunteer hours. And I can
Okay.
just send them where it needs to go
And if you have a contact at the school, you should start talking to them about senior projects this summer.
Let me write that on here because this is what I'm gonna look at.
Is that a bullet item or a numbered one?
It's just its own item.
Yeah.
It's just its own item. I think that's everything.
Can we just discuss the Wildcat naming real quick?
Sure.
So just recap, we voted to change and drop the falls from the name, then found out from the town, we didn't have the authority to completely officially change that. And then I know the question came out of the last meeting, are we able to just promote it as that without anything official? So I talked to Paul, he looked at the deed, which doesn't officially have a name, so it's
Correct.
basically called the Town of Merrimack. So my suggestion is that we go through the process and just name it. We already voted to name it that. So the next step would be Eric would reach out to Robert and start the process. Town council approves it. I think it has to go through a public hearing maybe. And then it's officially named. And then you put it on your maps. And that's my suggestion anyways.
The NRPC map information has already been updated, but we, of course, haven't printed them yet.
Thank you for following up on.
Is this the first time we've ever changed the name of a property?
No, because it used to be called 80 acres,
Okay,
and we changed it to Wildcat Falls.
and we
But
just
apparently
decided
it
to
was
do
never-
We
it?
just did it right here.
Apparently the deed was never changed, so it wasn't even
The-
80
yeah,
acres
it was- yeah, it was-
officially.
There's
It was-
nothing in the
yeah.
deed about the
There's
name,
nothing in the deed about the name.
as opposed to Sklar.
Yeah, we named Greater Woods, Greater Woods, we named Horse Hill, Horse Hill. We came up with all of them. I think the only one we didn't name was Gilmore Hill,
Where's that?
Where's that?
Greens Pond.
By Wasserman.
That's two people's last names. It's not Gilmore Hill, it's Gilmore and Hill. It's the two last names.
I would like to do a bust town tour with you guys so that you can just we'll just like do a brief stop. We have a van. We can fit 8 people in our van.
Just drive down
8 people.
Greens Pond Road. And
And then one person can drive us around. I don't have to find it. Someone watches my children. We all squeeze into our van. Or Ellen, just you and me and the kids. That could be a thing too.
Anything else? In that case, we can move on to presentation of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Okay, any discussion?
Not see
Is Jeff LaCour's name spelled correctly on this? I feel like
Is what?
Jeff LaCour's, was participating and he was
Yeah.
also,
Yeah, I don't know.
I think you're right. I think that's, I don't think there's any,
I think that's what it is.
yeah.
You said no E?
I believe it's no E, but I have to double
I
check.
think you're right about that.
Yeah, it's C-O-U-R-S. Yeah, good catch.
And that was the only change I had.
It shows up again in line 71.
and it's a capital C.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone else have any changes?
Sorry.
Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes as approved? All opposed? All abstain? Motion passes 7-0 to 0. And when that's it, are there any closing commissioner comments?
Just say
Okay.
happy holidays, everybody, if we're not meeting again.
Wear Hunter orange.
And Danielle is recovering.
Mhm.
She's okay.
Yeah, my wife's been in touch with her too. She's
Yep.
very banged up. She's very lucky.
Crazy.
Yeah, I saw where the truck ended up at 10 more feet.
Yep.
Would have been
Hmm.
sending the dive team to recover the body.
Okay, would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Seconded. No, I want a second. I want to do it. Because I want to go sleep so badly, so I get a second.
You still gotta take care of this.
Oh, dang nabbit.
Any discussion? All vote to approve? All opposed? Oh, all abstaining? Motion passes 7-0 to 0.
I looked at it, actually, this would be a 20-minute meeting.